This week on Hazardous Materials, I suffer through Dark Knight's death metal, Casey gets spoiled by Spider-Woman, and we enjoy a trio of Al Ewing books.
Warning. The following podcast is utter nonsense and may cause agoraphobia, kleptomania, insomnia, and oppositional defiance disorder. We are required by law to provide you with this disclaimer for hazardous materials.
Hello and welcome back to Hazardous Materials, last week's comics this week, wherein we talk about last week's comics this week. My name is Casey Johnson, with me as always,
Gideon Gonzalez. So at the top of the hour, eagle-eared viewers might remember I had some strong feelings on Dark Knight's death metal #1.
So we figured we just would highlight the top of our half hour, 45-minute or hour with the trash.
Alrighty. So, following from the events of Dark Knight's Metal #1, Wonder Woman's leading a ragtag team to try and find what Batman's big plan is, and apparently it's grave robbing. Because I forgot to tell you about this in the first issue, but Batman's got a Black Lantern ring that lets him resurrect, like make an army of zombies, because I guess that's how a Black Lantern ring works now.
Oh, I think we actually talked about that before we recorded.
Yeah, probably.
And how ridiculous that was.
So, Batman's in a superhero graveyard, which I guess is a thing that the JSA are hiding in, and they're all super old, and it's dumb. I'm lacking the energy of this on this part before I get to the part that really pisses me off. But this is just kind of like, it's whatever. There's a line where Batman says, "I can't tell if that's a plan or you're having a stroke," which I was just like,
I saw that.
Stupid line. It's one of those things where they're like, isn't this wacky, guys? Isn't this crazy? And it's just like, admitting that it's stupid doesn't make it less stupid.
It's just still garbage.
Yeah. So, but the thing that got my goat is we follow up on the final Bruce Wayne, which was the Doctor Bat Hatton, if you will. And apparently the plan is to take the Batman Who Laughs brain and put it in Bat Hatton's body, which I guess is something that's possible. I guess. And
could we even nitpick on the fact that Black Lantern rings don't exist and the power that they came from doesn't exist either? So how the hell is this thing working?
It's such a minor nitpick in the broad scheme of bad, but it's just another thing on the pile.
It's a thing that got my attention the most is when he whips out the ring. I'm like, what the hell are you doing with that? It's number one. How is it working?
It's yet another dumb continuity thing in this book. So they plop his brain in and it fires up immediately, and Batman Who Laughs is like, I'm alive, and I'm going to empower one of my Robins to be the King Robin. And instead of saying crow, he says crown. And then he's like, no, blue is the color of soldiers and heroes. And he turns himself into the Darkest Night, which might be the dumbest I've seen.
Just you explaining it is making me dumb.
Yeah, it's do you know that scene in The Simpsons where Milhouse wants Alan Moore to sign his copy of Watchmen Babies and V for Vacation?
No, that one escaped me.
That is the vibe of this book. Alan Moore goes on this rant, and he's voicing himself about how it's what corporations done for you. You pour your heart and soul, and then they just wring every bit of integrity out of you. And then Art Spiegelman hands him a little Lulu to read.
So, just the description of this, I feel like I'm watching you explain Spock's brain to me.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe of it. It's and then the issue doesn't end there. It ends with the heroes being like, oh, we've got a secret weapon from Toyman, and it's you remember
our newly redeemed Toyman.
No, this is the old not the old one, but the what's his name? Hero, I can't remember what his last name is, but the young Toyman that was like the young Japanese kid.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he had in Metal in the little opening for that, there's a sequence where they have like a Voltron of Justice Leaguers, and it was dumb.
Oh.
And here they do that same bit, but now it's a big old Trinity robot homaging the Batman and Superman robot.
Are
from the
we
Batman
sure this
Superman
isn't
arc.
like satire?
It's not self-aware enough to be satire. it's just all this collection of buzzwords of things that's hot. It's ripping off of Grant Morrison. It's ripping off of Donny Cates. It's just
This feels like some kind of frantic grabbing at the zeitgeist of comic books.
It's just the most craven, desperate attempt, and it's working. That's the thing that drives me crazy. Is people are buying it. People are saying it's good, and I'm like, are we reading the same comic? Like, it's the dumbest I've ever read.
Are we? Oh man, I really hope we're not coming back to the edge of the age of edgelords that was the 90s.
Here's the thing. This book is racing to be the worst event DC has ever put out, and that is an incredibly competitive field.
Exceedingly.
Like, yeah. So we've got Identity Crisis down here at the bottom. That was 16 years ago. Doomsday Clock got pretty damn close, but didn't quite hit the lows of Identity Crisis.
Yeah, I don't think you really can hit the lows with Identity Crisis without like inspiring a riot.
Yeah, Identity Crisis, you gotta try real hard, but damn it, Dark Knight's Death Metal is trying. They got 5 issues to see how bad it can get. Like this cover in the October solicits where it's got, I hate saying a stupid name, The Darkest Night licking a frowny face button. It's just like, here's the thing that kills me. You can read so many books that this book is ripping off of that are so much better. If you want a really good story with heavy metal visuals that actually is about heavy metal music, there's David Warren Johnson's Murder Falcon, one of my favorite books of the last few years. If you want to read a cool story about a post-apocalyptic DC universe starring Wonder Woman Dead Earth, one of the best books coming out right now. You want to have just like a dumb turn off your brain book about ever increasing power levels and edgy dark 90s style visuals, there's Venom by Cates and Stegman. If you want a post-apocalyptic DC universe that stars Batman and is written by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, there's Batman Last Night on Earth, which I don't love, but it's a damn sight better than this.
So we seem to have lots of different pieces and lots of different things, lots of it just getting scratched. But when DC had decided to put it all together, they crapped on it.
Yeah. And if you want to read a book with Watchmen and get characters are in it, read Watchmen. Hell, I would recommend reading Watchmen before reading this.
I'd become tired of the Batman Who Laughs a long time ago.
Me too.
I'd become tired of Dr. Manhattan being reused as a story point.
Well, now you get to see Batman Who Laughs with Manhattan Prowlers fight Wally West.
I'm pretty sure that my face contorted when you started explaining that to me.
I can't get over it. And I was looking through the solicits for October, and we're still going to be dealing with this. There's so many damn tie-ins to death metal, so many one-shots tying into it, including one called The Darkest Night, Rise of the New God. And I'm like, oh, so now we got to drag King Kirby into this? Like,
I don't know who is naming these things is just so damn cringeworthy. And I got my first exposure to this when we were watching Wally West trying to redeem himself, and he's going through all these different universes. Like, this is the dark universe, the reverse,
the dark
universe.
Multiverse.
And I'm like,
That
awful.
sounds
stupid.
Yeah. Do you remember how the dark multiverse is introduced?
How?
In Metal, there's a scene where they're looking at the map from Multiversity of the multiverse. And I think either one of the Challengers of the Unknown or Hot Girl goes, but there's a dark multiverse. And she takes it off the wall and flips it around, and it's all black on the back. And that's about where I checked out of Metal. The first one, I was like, this is the dumbest I ever seen.
God.
It's like, cool, we finally have and I keep harping on this, that Multiversity made the DC multiverse like nice, organized, clean, with room to expand. And then Scott Snyder was like, what if there was a dark, edgy multiverse? They have negative numbers. What if there's dark, edgy lanterns? What if there's other forces?
It's not sustainable. I mean, I get alternate universes. I totally get alternate universes. But when your premise is so paper thin that you can't sustain it, I can't be I can't be bothered to read it. And this is the reason why when you brought this up and you said that we were going to read it, I said, no, you're going to read it.
It's
you are the sacrificial cow.
This book is going to give me like, I'm going to have like a rogue like skunk streak in my hair when I'm finished it. This book will take
permanent markings.
This book is taking a part of my soul. It is making me not it like
it's like you're reading The Darkhold.
It's like Doomsday Clock was the herald for the Galactus.
Oh my god! Yes,
death metal.
This is your own. This is your own. What was it? You remember when Apocalypse Now and they recorded that documentary for it? It was this is your Heart of Darkness.
Heart of Dark Knight's death metal.
Oh god! I think we found our title.
Okay.
So we have some differing opinions on this next one. I think we're talking about Strange Adventures number 3.
Yeah, still with Tom King, Mitch Gerads, and Doc Shaner. This one's more of a downbeat issue, which I know you weren't too crazy on.
Nope.
I really dig how it's getting into how the scandal is affecting the personal lives of Adam and Alana. Like there's constant news streams going on about the two of them. And the big ending is a fun little PR gaffe on behalf of Batman as he is caught on camera breaking into their house to be like, we're watching you, Alana. We know something strange happened on Ryan.
What I want to know is, how'd Batman let that happen?
Classic Bat goof.
He got recorded by like some run-of-the-mill camera dude.
Alien cameras, maybe.
Alien cameras.
We'll go with that. But yeah, the B story from Doc Shaner involves Adam getting in a gladiator pit, and he cuts a guy's head off with his helmet.
Yeah, that was pretty dramatic. I like that part.
Yeah, pretty intense.
I'm finding more and more I don't like Adam's wife,
Alana.
Yeah, she's starting to wear on me. She's bugging me. I don't know maybe if they're intentionally trying to do that to show that there's something wrong with her, because it feels like there's something wrong with her.
She does pull a gun on Batman.
There's that. But it feels like whatever malfeasance is in this book is coming from her. I don't like that big word, huh?
$5 word.
Yeah. But that's what it feels like.
I'm curious to see how it develops. She's definitely kind of on the attack for this. And I kind of get that because again, her husband is like being framed ? For murder. They certainly think he is, but
and maybe it's just because she's taking such a hard edged and methodical, plan about this. It just feels like there's another edge to this sword that we haven't been cut by yet.
It's a Tom King book, so there's another shoe is going to drop at some point. We're going to be like, oh my god! Like,
and if that happens, I'll acquiesce. I want to
know what happened to their daughter. I'm with Mr. Terrific
she's
on
not
that.
even mentioned here.
They bring her up a couple times.
Really? I see it.
Batman brings it up.
Oh.
Yeah, Batman brings it up, and I think one of the news people mention it as well.
I didn't pay attention to those news people.
Yeah, my one issue that I say I have with this issue was not nearly enough Mr. Terrific.
True. Now, see, I'd be all about reading a Mr. Terrific interrogation.
Yeah,
which we didn't get.
I'm sure we're gonna get it soon though.
Yeah, like issue 4.
And they even talk about when Adam's hanging out with Hawkman and Superman, he's like, "So what kind of questions did Mr. Terrific ask you?"
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm hoping,
Carter.
Hoping we get some more of this, because that number 2 was so good.
So number 3, just I wasn't excited about it, and when I was reading all of these, and granted, I had to read all my stuff within like 2 hours, and this was the least pleasant read. And I think that's just because there was nothing catching my attention, and
except for Adam decapitating a guy.
That kind of got my well, once he got poisoned, I started really paying attention. I'm like, okay, how are you gonna get out of this one?
Well, let's move on to a book that I'm sure we both enjoyed, though.
Well,
Jimmy Olsen.
But I heard of some things.
You haven't read it?
I did not read it, but I heard some things.
Okay, so Jimmy Olsen number 12 by Matt Fraction and Steve Lieber wraps up this great series that I really hope DC recognizes and keeps it as an evergreen trade, because this is one that I think will sell for years to come.
So this actually hit some of the comic book news sites. They exist. For one big reveal that is almost some people were calling this a retcon. I don't really call it a retcon because it was never really addressed to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really think about it, Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so there, in the midst of the who killed Jimmy plot, which we know was Julian Olsen, but we find out who set it all in motion was none other than Lex Luthor,
The
who
most
shows up,
sinister of gingers.
who shows up on the radar that Jimmy's professor friend has to find rogue Olsens, and it turns out that in the one of the many B through Z plots of this book, there's a lot of stuff going into the lineage and the rivalry of the Olsens and the Luthors. And it turns out once upon a time, an Olsen and a Luthor had a private affair, joining the two bloodlines, which while Jimmy Olsen is cut off of the Olsen family trust, all the money's been spent, he can now glomp onto the Luthor family trust. And he uses that to blackmail Lex Luthor into payrolling the Daily Planet and making Jimmy publisher. And there's a great scene where Perry White calls Jimmy Chief, and it made me very happy.
So what's Perry White? Is he like retired now?
No, he's still like the editor in chief, but Jimmy Olsen's the publisher.
Oh, sorry. Brain was elsewhere on that one. Okay. Yeah, so he's not the editor in chief. That's cool.
And Jimmy still gets to go on his zany adventures, keeps all of his friends paid, and he gets to throw some egg on Luthor's face.
That's pretty cool. I did enjoy the fact that they went to the well on that one, because when Lex Luthor was showcased with hair, even as early as the 30s, he was a ginger.
He is. The red hair. Not a lot of redheads in Metropolis, I guess.
No.
You got Lex, the Olsens, and Maxima.
You're not a Metropolis ginger, are you?
Do you remember? I mean, of course you remember. In the post-crisis, when he came back, when he had a clone son who his brain was in, and he had that lion's mane.
Yes.
I love that look. So good.
Or the fact that Luthor, during the Crisis on Infinite Earths on the Earth 3, was strikingly
Full head of
redheaded.
hair.
Yes.
So yeah, Jimmy Olsen, great book. Should be out in trade in a month or two. Highly recommended it to pick it up.
Good cover. I like this cover.
I've really liked all of Lieber's covers. And the thing is, Ben Oliver's variants have been really good too. And it's always been a challenge. I only double dipped on one. That was the
I gotta hand it to
issue.
DC for actually doing something with this.
Yeah.
Doing something meaningful and actually going the 9 yards on it.
Again,
I will give that DC. I will give it to this.
Yeah. Losing Jimmy and Lois within 2 weeks is put a big chunk out of my DC books. And I was looking at the October solicits. There's only I think 5 or 6 titles that I'm grabbing.
When are we getting the Harley Quinn Black Label book with Amanda Connor in it?
Number 2 came out a week ago. 3 should probably be out within the next month, and then a hardcover 2 months after that, probably.
3 is where I want to get in on that.
Yeah,
I think we talked about this in the last episode about Cassandra Cain's
her new costume.
Yeah, that looks really good. So that's one I want to check that out. I should really read the first 2 because I do love Amanda Connor.
It is a lot of fun.
It
does have one of my probably my favorite Harley panel of all time in number 2.
Really?
There's a whole bit where she's talking about what she would do if she could do anything. And one of them, it's go I'm paraphrasing, but essentially go motorboating with Wonder Woman and Power Girl, and it's Harley just standing in between them going with a sailor hat. Cracked me up.
That's so on the nose. Yeah.
So we'll start with Amazing Spider-Man number 44 by Nick Spencer and Jacinto.
Now, my first thing going into this is, where's Gog?
Where's
the
his
puppy?
dog?
Where's the puppy?
Where's his little space puppy?
We didn't get puppy.
No puppy.
No, we got Peter going through the dream in a dream. The old trope.
So yeah, he's the issue starts with him riding in the back of Overdrive's car, and Overdrive meets up with some of the inner demons from Mr. Negative's crew, and they get jumped by who they hope is not the Punisher, but turns out to be the all-new, all-different Sin Eater, who's got some buff up from the Centipede Man.
Just a bit. So this guy pulls your sins out of your body to confront you and pretty much everybody around you. And they look like these weird
blood tooth demons.
Yeah. And they're saying, it's like, hey, I can't wait to get this money out of town and I'm going to kill these other guys with me. And I'm like, Wow.
So yeah, he makes his blood demons fight the inner demons, and Overdrive is like, I gotta get out of here. So he pulls a paper plane he made out of a 20 and uses his nonsense nanite powers to make it into a big plane so he can glide out. Lost my mind at that panel.
That was great.
Oh my God. I love Overdrive so much. I love his stupid nonsensical powers. I love how much Nick Spencer loves him.
And they took him seriously on this one. Now, this next part, it's basically Overdrive has Spider-Man in his back seat. And he's explaining him the whole story about running into the Sin Eater. And he's talking about the fact that he's having to run away from the Sin Eater for 3 straight days. And just the way that they did it I really caught the sinister edge of it, because no matter where he was, where he stopped, boom, standing right there waiting for him, just always there. I mean, how do you deal with that when you don't get a moment's rest?
Yeah.
And you stop just to get like a Coke, and freaking Sin Eater is sitting there right there.
I remember when they brought Sin Eater back an issue or 2 ago, I was like, oh, what's he gonna do? Menace a bunch of supervillains with a shotgun? Like, guy just used to kill corrupt cops. What's he gonna do? Oh, he can pour your blood out.
Yeah.
Kindred wasn't messing around. He gave him that buff.
And relentlessly chase your ass for several days. I mean, if I was Overdrive at that, and he actually said this right when I was thinking about it, when I was reading, is like, at that point, I would just stop and take it. Just whatever you got. I hope to God it's not as bad as what I just saw. I'm just ready. When I was reading that, I saw Overdrive going, you know, at this point, just being caught would have been a release. I'm like, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and it's like, what's the worst Overdrive has done?
Like, he really hasn't
steal
done
a car?
much.
Like,
yeah, I mean, he's been complicit in like almost murders with Boomerang's crew.
Like, we're not talking carnage here. Like,
no, but
my boy Overdrive is small potatoes.
He did try to kill the Shocker inadvertently.
Yeah, he didn't know there was a man
Shocker
in that car.
Yeah.
He didn't know he was burying a man alive until Shocker talked back.
Speed Demon was really the guilty party on that one.
Yeah.
Speed Demon's killed some few people. He doesn't deserve redemption.
I am very excited for the for this lead up to Amazing Spidey number 50, and I hope we finally learn who the hell Kindred is. You know what my theory is.
Well, do you want to say it on camera?
Yeah, I think I've said it before. Given that the way his eyes are all hollowed out, I think it is the original. It's the copy of Peter Parker's consciousness that got put into Doc Ock's body during right before Superior Spider-Man. Because Doc Ock at the time had those like hollowed out eyes and like the goggles over him. And I think, and you do have to, and that's kind of why Kindred knows everything about Peter.
Yeah. I mean, when I was looking at this,
and he did die. He died so he could go to hell physically.
Yeah, and it just feels like Marvel's trying to capture lightning in a bottle like they did with Hobgoblin, because Hobgoblin was the slow burn of the 80s. You know, they introduced him. Who the hell is this guy? But MJ knows who he is, because remember, he took off his mask, went out in the street. MJ actually ran into him. He goes, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And then that's it. You don't find out what the hell happened. And of course, issues later, they completely bungled the storyline with Ned Leeds.
Yeah, they took it from Roger Stern, who wanted to be Roderick Kingsley, and Tom DeFalco, who was his editor, was like, "No, that can't be the Hobgoblin is." And he was like, "Why not? That's what I've been building up to for all these issues of Spider-Man." And so he bounced.
Yeah, and not a lot of people know about Ned Leeds, but when you're in the 80s, Ned Leeds was as well known as support character in the Daily Bugle as Ben Urich was. So to do this, now granted, he was having a rough spin on things because him and Betty Brant were married, and they were having a rough, almost divorce kind of thing going on.
Yeah, he was. I believe he was smacking her around, wasn't he?
I think they implied it, but they hadn't gone full Yellow Jacket.
At the very least, he was incredibly emotionally abusive to her, and manipulative.
Yeah, but he was still a supporting character, so you're expecting, yeah,
he was just like, oh, this is Pete's shitty coworker.
Yeah, and you're just supposed to expect it. You don't expect him to be freaking Hobgoblin.
Thankfully, Roger Stern got to set the record straight with Hobgoblin Lives in the 90s, a great 3-issue mini that's partially drawn by George Perez.
And they killed Jason McIndale with that, and he never brought him back.
Man,
I'm actually kind of happy about that. Jason McIndale, if you don't know, is the original Jack-O-Lantern who took on the guise of Hobgoblin as Hobgoblin 2, and he was the one that looked demonic and sometimes was called Demogoblin.
Did he wound up becoming Demogoblin?
Yeah, he did. And then he went to jail, and then Roderick killed him while he was in jail, and we haven't seen McIndale since.
Love Roderick Kingsley.
When he kills people, they stay dead.
Yeah, the thing that I love about him is that he's a supervillain fashion designer who recognized the power of a brand.
Yes.
I love that. That's so good.
And that's something that you and I were talking about, the fact that we would love to revisit Hobgoblin.
Well, actually, speaking of Hobgoblin, the guy who wrote that Axis miniseries, Kevin Shinnick, is taking over The Flash after Joshua Williamson's run. And I wasn't too hot on Williamson's run, but I love Shinnick's Hobgoblin. So I'm excited to see. And it looks like his first 2 issues are like one-off stories. Like it's this Trickster issue and then a Dr. Alchemy issue. So I'm really excited for this.
Now, as I absolutely adore redemption stories in whatever shape they want to take. And so Axis to me was, I was hogging shit.
You got a lot of Sabretooth out of it.
I got a lot of Sabretooth.
Buzzcut Sabretooth, baby.
I got Buzzcut Sabretooth, who actually gave a crap. I got Mystique, who gave a crap very briefly. But I also got Carnage. I also got Hobgoblin. I got Crusher Creel. I got everybody in the Astonishing Avengers, the short-lived Astonishing Avengers, also including, of course, Enchantress. And they went away just as quickly as they came.
Yeah.
But the ones that mattered lingered a little longer, and you know what I'm talking about. I want to revisit those storylines.
That could be really fun.
Yeah, maybe we could set that in a schedule.
Axis is one of those events where the tie-ins are so much better than the actual event.
Yeah. Next up, got the new Marvel feature that we're supposed to get way back in March.
Yeah, the big crossover event, Empyre, #1.
With a Y.
With a Y. By Al Ewing, Dan Slott, and Valerio Schiti. And, I'm not too hot on event comics.
I'm not either.
This one, I'm really digging this one so far, though.
This is how you start an event.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say about this.
I like how it dovetails right from where the 2-0 issue started. Still think 2-0's issue's a stupid gimmick, though.
Now, we are usually pretty openly flowing with spoilers. I mean, if we're talking about comics, we're going to tell you how we feel about them. And that's pretty much start to finish. At this point, I feel like we do need to put up a spoiler warning because we're about to bust something that Marvel's been keeping a cap on.
Yeah. Well, I'm very surprised they were able to lock this down.
They did a great job.
So this isn't a book that's about Avengers versus Fantastic Four or the Kree and Skrulls versus everyone else. This is everyone else versus, what are they called?
The Kotal.
The Kotal. Koi, the Celestial Messiah's plant people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they basically play the Avengers and then they're like, all right, time to take over the universe.
Yeah, and they played us because Marvel and all of their promotional materials have all been pointing towards the Kree Skrull peace negotiations, Hulkling being the king. And, going into this, I really thought that we were going to be experiencing another one of those situations where the writer has lost touch with the character so much that we don't recognize it. And then we're going to have to spend several issues trying to figure out why they decide to drastically change his character's idea, because you got Teddy as the king, and from the few pages you see him in the beginning, he seems rather sure of what he's doing. And I'm like, that's not the Teddy I know. What am I going to be dealing with this? But then, excuse me, he tells you, he was like, hey, listen, I don't really know what's going on here. I'm with you guys, but I trust these two. And that's how we're going to jam. The real Teddy comes out in his facial expressions, in his speech. It's like, okay, that's what I'm talking about. And then you find out, boom, surprise, the Kotal of the big bad guys of this whole book. And Marvel kept a cap on it until the very day this book came out. Thumbs up, Marvel.
Yeah.
At least their editorial knows what the is going on.
Al Ewing he wrote Teddy for quite a while in his Avengers title, so he's got a good handle on the character. I trusted him and he delivered. I'd also I want to talk about two of my favorite scenes of the book. Both are Teddy centric. Okay. First one is when the FF drive the Fantastic car up next to Teddy's ship, and they're like, "Whoa, it's Hulkling, and he's hanging out with Claret, the Super Skrull." And Claret is like, "My liege, my power to turn invisible also lets me see invisible things." Wha-bam! And he revealed.
And I didn't know that Sue Storm can actually see the things that are invisible, and that completely makes sense.
Yeah.
I haven't been paying attention to her entire 50-year history, so I don't really know how her power works. But right before that scene starts, they're smart enough to reveal, oh, hey, yeah, I see your smirk, which reveals the fact that she can see her stuff visible. And then, boom, we'll go right to Claret, who has that same power. I'm like, oh crap!
Love that Super Skrull. I also my other The favorite part was when the fight breaks out between the Avengers and the Kree Skrull army, where Sue makes Thor's hammer invisible and it's meow, 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 weaving in and out, going for Hulkling, and he just catches it with his sword. So cool.
Yes.
So dope.
Because that says a couple of things. It says, number one, Hulkling is on the ball.
He's a good dude.
But also says that he's a decent dude because he kept the hammer aloft. And that's like, so we're dealing with the real Teddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy. Teddy's a good boy. Teddy's a very good boy.
He's a great boy. The best boy. And also, which will actually, oh man, I wish we had done the order of our books a bit differently. But I really like the scene where Jen gets her mind back in order thanks to the Kodal hammer.
Yes.
And she talks about, I feel more alive than I have in years. And she does that little Immortal Hulk green door glimmer in her eye. And I was like, woo, Al Ewing. Filling up stuff for Immortal Hulk tie-ins.
What I also thought was interesting is the fact that Thor kind of looked mournful.
That's because he's been really digging the Savage She-Hulk. They've been bone buddies.
So he's looking on like, oh, my girlfriend's gone. It's Jen. Which Who's
that girl? It's Jen.
It's Jen. I've been waiting for Jen to come back for a while because I really do miss She-Hulk. And I don't need my She-Hulk to be skinny. I'll get over that. I really will. But I want her personality back more than ever. And the fact that it's now back, I'm really excited about that.
Well, we'll see how back it is. We are getting that Immortal She-Hulk one shot.
We are getting that. So maybe we're being led down another pathway.
Now I get why it's on the moon, because it's doing like the Immortal Hulk #1 cover, which is referencing an even older Marie Severin Hulk cover. But yeah, with him coming out of the grave, but She-Hulk, it's her coming out of the moon. So,
fun fact on that: the hero clicks for Immortal Hulk
does that.
It's great. I love it. That piece is so awesome.
So yeah, Empyre, pretty damn good actually.
Really damn good.
I'm honestly sad they're cutting back on the two tie-ins I was really hyped for: Squadron Supreme and Battle for Wakanda.
And Strike Force was also killed because I actually managed to read Strike Force just recently, and they fixed something that always bugged me, and this is something I was going to bring up. They fixed what I hated about Spider-Woman's outfit. And we'll talk more about that when we're going to talk about Spider-Woman right after this.
That's a good segue to Spider-Woman, so let's go.
Let's go right into it. So this leads right into Spider-Woman #2. Long awaited, because Spider-Woman 1 went like months ago. And going into some... I love the fact that Spider-Woman's got her own title back. I like the fact that the title font is the classic 79 title font, the kind of thing. Not a big fan of the costume. I still think it's lazy garbage. But I know that's just going to be pretty much this title. And once this title is done, we're pretty much going to see the end of that. Because when we go into Strike Force, she's still wearing her red and yellow. Interestingly enough, in the last issue, they have a moment where they're doing an Asgardian storyline, so I'm not really too thrilled about it. I'll just page through it, read the Spider-Woman stuff, and just read the Blade stuff and skip over everything else because it's all Angela, Asgardian, and Asgardian stuff is just sleepy time for me. She gets her jacket back and she puts it over her red and yellow outfit and zips it up. I'm like, you just fixed everything I hated about that outfit. She's wearing her mask, as it should be. She's got her red and yellow boots going on. She's got the yellow gloves on, but she's got the black sleeves.
That's a good compromise.
And the jacket zip up. And I'm like, that looks great.
We can agree on that. Because I love the jacket costume. You love the classic costume. It's
a nice little merge. And
fusion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll show you a picture of it right here. It took me a while to actually find a decent one single picture of this because... when you do team books like this, especially when the characters aren't really A-list, you see most of them are just in the background. They're very small, not a whole lot of detail. So when she put this on, in #8, she put it on, it was unzipped, just hanging out. And in like the next issue, she had zipped up and like, that looks freaking great. But this is like the one image I could find where it would look decent. And it's just one of those happy accidents. So that's cool. Going into Spider-Woman #2, the storyline here is that Jessica has gotten sick and she's doing all kinds of weird stuff. She went to see Night Nurse to try to figure out, what's going on with me. I'm feeling queasy and I'm all kinds of weird irregularities. And the Rhino is apparently ripping stuff up trying to get an appointment with Night Nurse, and she's like, you can't be here. What you have is like a specialist thing, and you need an appointment. And he's like, well, I'm just going to tear this whole place down. And then Spider-Woman gets in, and for whatever reason, she's getting sick, but she's also a bit stronger than usual. So she gets on Rhino, but he grabs her and he starts breaking her. But when he starts squeezing her, she pukes on him. And when she pukes on him, it's acidic.
That's awesome.
It's great. This big green spew just gets off. He's like, oh, it's burning. And so he takes off with Spider-Woman puke all over him. And she, Night Nurse basically says, okay, well, I did an examination of your blood and I saw irregularities. And Spider-Woman's like, well, yeah, I'm Spider-Woman. You're going to get irregularities. She goes, no, I know the usual irregularities because of what your father did to your blood system neonatal or prenatal, I should say. But the process that you got to use your powers was part of the first process that your father did, but he also did a secondary process which stabilized you. That part appears to be gone now. And now you're basically being killed off by the process that made you Spider-Woman.
Oh, okay.
And then she's going back and says, well, no one's ever touched me. How the hell could I possibly got it? And she thinks back to the first issue where she had gotten a flu shot from one of her clients before going and doing security for a child's birthday party. And it turns out the child has the same kind of sickness that's anchored in her blood supply. And I guess to push her to help him, he put her into the same state that his child is in. So now she's severely angry, but at the same time, she's a mom, so she understands the motivations and this kind of thing. It's like, I just want to help my daughter, but now it's a race against time because you're probably going to die from this. And odds are because you have a kid, your kid will probably die from this as well. So that's what we got going on right now. They put her through a few processes. She becomes basically their guinea pig. And one of the processes, and I screwed this up at the very beginning, she wasn't very strong. The new process that they give amplifies her powers like big time. So she's got like mega freaking strength, like these gigantic electro beams from hell. And that's pretty much where we are now. And part of the process does require that they find the spider or the type of spider that her father used when he was doing his experiments, which is a spider that's been extinct for 25 years.
It's a big yellow one that...
Yes, it is a particular... Actually, surprisingly enough, it's a kind of widow that has that yellow markings that are on her outfit. That's where they come from. That's how they're explaining it.
You know what? At least they're explaining it somehow.
Yeah.
Because it's been a pretty gaudy costume for a long time.
It turns out that this thing has been dead for 25 years, but they think they may have found a stash of these. And the guy whose daughter has been affected by this is exceedingly rich. So he does all this purchasing to try to get this thing, and he still loses out. And the daughter of a villain from an old Spider-Woman comic that I can't even remember is the one that won out on this bid. And she's got like this one tiny spider on a necklace in like some kind of preservation liquid. And she goes, I've got the final spider. And it's, yeah, villain. Yeah. So that's how the issue ends. You know, she's like, I'm going to destroy this spider if you don't leave my premises right now. So that's where we are with Spider-Woman 2. I do like the fact they're talking about her origin. Cool. Hate the outfit still. Still hate the outfit. The art is nice and clean. I do like that. I think they should probably use the whole expressive eyes a lot more, like what they do with Spider-Man. You know, when he squints, when he's like, hey, what the fuck is up with this and all sort of stuff like that. And they do to some degree, but I think they could probably do more because it's kind of hard to emote with that particular kind of mask on.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that Marvel doesn't pull the plug on this one. I do want this title to evolve, even if I'm stuck with that horrid black and red costume that she is stuck in. Anybody that's watched this show with any level of regularity knows that Spider-Woman is like That's like my number 2 hero. And when they bring her back and it's quality, I'm totally on board. When they bring her back and it's garbage like Spider-Woman Agent of S.W.O.R.D., it breaks my heart. And I'm hoping that this continues, and I'm hoping that the story writing in this continues, because I think it's great so far. And I'm even willing to acquiesce on the costume as long as I keep getting my Jessica Drew.
It's
that's what I got to say about that.
So moving along to a book I have been waiting for to come back, Guardians of the Galaxy '4 from Al Ewing and Juan Cabal. I love this book. I love it so much. I love the 2 Guardians team setup they have, where after Peter Quill's heroic sacrifice, Rocket and Gamora have a pretty big falling out. So there's Rocket's Guardians that have like Nova. They've got the alt universe, Moondragon and Phyla, and they have Hercules, which Hercules and Rocket Raccoon. What a delightful combo.
Is that really Hercules?
Yeah.
The Prince of Power?
No, not Prince of Power. Prince of Power is an old Bill Mantlo Hulk villain who has a handful of appearances, if that.
Okay.
But he was around the same time Rocket Raccoon was introduced. So that's and he's another cosmic character. And that's on the other Guardians team. You've got, I'm completely blanking on his name, but the Bucky O'Hare parody.
Blackjack O'Hare.
There we go. Blackjack O'Hare. His good himbo henchman, Prince of Power.
And Blackjack O'Hare is from the original Rocket Raccoon miniseries.
That's right.
I was like, hey, that's kind of cool.
And the other Guardians team who are joining those two, it's Gamora, the main universe Moondragon, who lost her Phyla, Teen Groot, and Drax, who has regressed to his classic form after he sacrificed himself in the it was Infinity Wars one, where it was like the warps.
He was wearing the Jim Starlin outfit again.
He had to, when they did the whole Infinity Warps thing where the characters getting combined and all that, he became Arthur Douglas again, and Arthur Douglas had to sacrifice himself to undo all of that, and so the classic Drax was reborn.
I was wondering about that. They don't really showcase him a whole lot because the team is largely subdued the entire issue.
There is a great bit of Teen Groot reading Death of Captain Marvel in the intro. Oh, and I forgot, Marvel Boy is on Rocket's team.
Now this was my favorite part.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Boy, everything Marvel Boy was great.
So Marvel Boy had a rough go of it after Morrison left, probably for a solid decade. It was just, they didn't know what the hell to do with them. But when they put him in the Young Avengers during McKelvey and Gillen's run on the book.
When he was Bishop's boyfriend.
Yes.
And when he was Bishop's ex-boyfriend.
When he was Kate Bishop's dumb space boyfriend.
Yes.
Really, really was a great angle for the character, and they're continuing with that here. So there's a great bit where he utilizes his cockroach DNA and he's like squirming in and out of places. So, but before we get to that, so the setup of the issue is the villain, he's a beaver from Half-World. That's was the villain of Rocket's miniseries that Al Ewing had written before. And
Blackjack was also a villain. He was like the villain henchman.
Yeah. And so the beaver guy is like, hey, I need you to kill Rocket Raccoon. He's on one of my resorts and I don't like it. And they're like, okay. And Gamora's like, yeah, we don't have a problem with that. We're on the outs with him.
Yeah.
So they go to kill him. Rocket is causing a ruckus and being a distraction at the bar while Marvel Boy infiltrates the real target, which is a replica Galactus head, which is siphoning the life energy from the guests at the resort.
And they're selling it.
Yes. So good. What a A+ weird cosmic Al Ewing idea.
When I saw that, I was like, what the hell am I seeing?
So Marvel Boy has to crawl in there in this great sequence and him like bending at unnatural angles with his cockroach powers. He takes on the Guardians. There's a great bit with his explosive fingernails that he flicks at people.
I got explosive fingernails. Pew! And you see that he grows them before he flicks them. And Drax is like, you threw fingernails at me. Disgusting. It's disgusting. Well, wait till you get a blow of this.
Gave him the LSD spit.
Oh, which gives him psychedelic.
Which gives him a Arthur Douglas sax solo trip.
Oh my God. And it was such a colorful midsection drawing. It's like, that's cool.
But the final page reveal, which I am super, super hyped for this showdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's main universe Moondragon versus alt universe Moondragon,
the Dragon of the Moon.
Yeah, that's so
pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm I'm on board.
Yes.
This book rules. And again, like I've been talking about Al Ewing this whole talk about it, but Juan Cabal, he was used to do, I believe, was it All New? I think he was on the X-23 book that followed All New Wolverine. And he is a master of expressions, from Prince of Power's goofy smiles to Moondragon's look of rage, just the sullen brokenness in Gamora throughout it. It's this book is
Gamora. Look, she is definitely giving out some narrow-eyed shade being coming out of her.
Yeah, this is. I feel completely comfortable saying this is the best the book has been since Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. Like,
now, I jumped into this cold. I had read the first 2 or 3 issues, but I decided to read it this time just because I had heard slightly good buzz on different thing, and you talked it up. So I'm like, I'll tough it through. You know, all the previous Guardians books have really disappointed me in the past 5 or 6 years. This one's just going to be just as disappointing. And I got into it. I'm like, I'm in. You got me already. I'm recognizing characters. I recognize the Beaver. I recognize Blackjack. I'm like, oh, wow. We're really going retro Rocket on this one. If you don't know, Rocket Raccoon was introduced in the 80s on his own 4-issue miniseries. It was completely separate from Guardians of the Galaxy. No connection whatsoever. And the entire storyline took place on his planet of lunatics. Yeah, he basically was part of a group of animals that were cybernetically enhanced, and they're like the caretakers of these planet-wide insanity of people. All these people are just completely whacked out of their minds, and he's part of that group. And they have villains like the Beaver, and they have villains like Blackjack O'Hare. I'm like, that's really cool. I'm still waiting to see Rocket's girlfriend, the Otter,
Lila,
show up somewhere.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. And a fun note about that original Rocket mini, one of the earliest mainstream comic works of Mike Mignola, back when he had a much more P. Craig Russell style before he developed his own unique look. That makes
a lot of sense with the shapes I was seeing.
Yeah. Like those weird clowns, very Mignola-esque. And you can really see where he's going. Yeah.
And the monkeys as well, I remember. God, I don't know why as a kid I got drawn to that. I guess, ooh, hey, look, raccoons. It's animals. They're cute.
So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, much like the current Suicide Squad book, really turning around a franchise that hasn't been too hot lately and just making it killer.
And yeah, Guardians needed it. Guardians has been lackluster ever since the release of Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah. Once DNA left, and then the book kind of, because like Thanos Imperative pretty definitively ended that era of Guardians. Like that was a good stopping point. But then they made a movie, and then they had to bring back
the crew.
Yeah, they had to resurrect Peter Quill and Drax and undo their heroic sacrifice.
Yeah, because all the characters that we had in Guardians of the Galaxy as a movie were not Guardians. They just that's all part of a book that hadn't even been out that long.
Yeah, that was the DNA stuff from like 2008.
Right.
Which is, if you haven't read it, so damn good. Annihilation Conquest, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thanos Imperative. Damn great series.
And they were all wearing uniforms, those blue and red uniforms.
Yeah, which I'm disappointed aren't in the movie because...
Well, they're kind of in the little Starburst is actually on Star-Lord stuff.
They've kind of loosely adapted it with the Ravagers stuff, but I love those old school looking...
Yeah, the flat coats.
Yeah, they got the buttons. I love Star-Lord's helmet. Like...
I should throw up a picture of what they looked like back in the day up here.
So good. And Groot wore an outfit too.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. He was wearing clothes. Like
Mantis even wore it. Yeah. Pretty cool.
It's such a good series. Highly recommend it. So it's a Hulk week.
Yes, it is. Immortal Hulk 35 came out.
Yeah, this one not drawn by usual artist Joe Bennett. This time we have Mike Hawthorne. You might remember from the recent Superior Spider-Man series on art duties. And he does a pretty damn good job with the subject matter. So it opens up with a great discussion between the Savage Hulk and Bruce in his mindscape, because the Devil Hulk's still locked up from the whole Zenmu thing. There's a great bit where Savage Hulk refers to him as stupid Banner, and Banner fires back with, "You can just call me Banner." "No, you call me Savage Hulk. I call you stupid Banner."
I like the fact that they go back to the idea that this idea of Banner and Hulk talking, meshing out their problems, and doing something about it has been done ad nauseum, because they even talk about it. It's like, listen, I know we've been here before. I know we've done this before. but let's do this something different.
And I think that just makes it even more heartbreaking that he can't see Betty's going through the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bit of he's constantly trying to talk to Betty as Betty, but she's not comfortable talking to him in her own form. She's acclimating to being the Red Harpy.
Yeah, I am Betty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Bruce is like, his mind is so shattered and so distinctly different personalities. He's having trouble coming to terms with Betty's development and how she reacts to her own gamma powers.
I still preferred Red She-Hulk.
Red
I really
Harpy
did.
Red Harpy's cool as hell, though.
I like Red Harpy's mouth. and that split on the sides and stretch out.
Do you remember when she just gutted Hulk?
Yes.
During the Abomination stuff? That shit ruled.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. And so Betty flies off. Bruce, meanwhile, has a photo op in the small town that got messed up when he was fighting the Avengers in issue 9.
Yes.
Yeah. And everything's going pretty okay. Hulk accidentally breaks a building, but then makes a joke.
Hulk did wrong.
And he goes,
maybe he make half a house.
Hulk make half a house. And everyone's like, ha, ha, ha.
Hulk.
But then, so as we found at the end of the Zenmu arc, the floating Rick Jones who's been with them isn't actually Rick Jones. It's his corpse being puppeted by the leader, who overloads Bruce with gamma radiation and makes him explode.
and kills everybody around him.
Yeah. So, which...
Just when you thought this was starting to get too tame, it was like, this isn't Immortal Hulk. Skeletonized.
So we talked about this when the solicits for these 2 issues. So number 35, we've got the cover. It's Hulk. He's surrounded by kids. It's bright and sunny, even though you can see the leaders in the back creeping there.
Mm-hmm.
And the solicitation was, could things be looking up for the Immortal Hulk? And then the solicit for 36, Alex Ross does the same poses, but now it's nighttime and the Hulk is covered in blood. And the solicit is just in all caps, no happy endings.
That's awful.
Yeah. Like, woo.
Yeah, just when Hulk finally gets a win, just when the world by at large is viewing him as a hero for rescuing them from this, the Yeti.
Zenmu the living Hulk.
This happens.
Yeah. I echo the sentiment of one of the interviewed people in it. Thank God for the Hulk.
Thank God for the Hulk.
I can't wait for 36 to come out. It'll be a long 2 weeks to a month.
Just when you thought it would escape the Immortal Hulk. And when I went into this and I saw the new artist, and I was like, oh, okay, the new artist is here. They're not going to get gross, because when they're going to get really gross,
they got to call Joe Bennett in.
They got to get Bennett in here. And I saw him. I was like, okay, this is just going to be a nice setup piece to probably next issue, which is going to be just crazy. And then by and large it was. And then the last issue, the last page, skeletonizes everybody. I'm like, that's what I was expecting.
Yeah. That
Immortal Hulk.
I say it again. It's shaping up to be the greatest leader story of all time. I'm excited to see where it goes.
I really think that Immortal Hulk as a title, even it's been around for 36 issues now, has maintained its horror edge throughout the entire thing. And I think it's gonna be one of those titles you talk about decades from now.
Oh yeah. This is I feel pretty safe in saying I think this is going to overtake Peter David's run as the definitive take on the character.
I was actually thinking just the same thing. You're talking about like the Pantheon Hulk?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I think. When I think Hulk, I think Pantheon Hulk.
But if Peter David's run starts even before that, because he takes over right when like the Grey Hulk stuff starts up. So he's got over 100 issues.
Was his
belt.
First issue the one where they did that lime green cover with the Hulk in the center?
No, that is about well over 40 issues into his run. His first issue is the one. It's not Todd McFarlane's first issue, but it's Todd's second issue where Doc Samson just been freed of psychic control. General Ross gets killed, and they depower Rick Jones, because Rick Jones has been running around as the Green Hulk for a bit while Hulk was the Gray Hulk.
Yeah, that's slender version of the Hulk.
They depower Rick Jones, and Gray Hulk goes on the run, and Todd McFarlane's. That's his first Marvel work, and it looks sick as hell.
You talk about that Wolverine fight where you see Hulk's reflection in his claws?
Right around there. I think he's on the... I think Todd starts at like...
Keown.
Yeah.
Dale Keown did it right after... And then after that, Dale Keown decides to do his own thing with Pit, and
I'm
then
gonna take some of my Hulk art and put some claws on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Hulk. I'm gonna put claws on it. But guess what? Now that I'm working for Image, I have zero work ethic, completely none. And I don't know if you're a child of the '90s and you read any Image and you read Pit, and I did because I love Dale Keown's art and I thought Pit looked great. And of course, Claws, Sabretooth, that's the thing I go.
Yeah.
He'll give you a couple issues. He'll give you a third issue 9 months later. He'll give you a fourth issue 2 years later, and then completely just drop off the whole title and not follow up on it at all because he sucks. Dale Keown is a person, and as a person that you could hire, sucks when it comes to delivering product in a timely fashion.
Nowadays, he's getting that cover money. And he did do that really fun one shot with Peter David. And I think he's drawing that new Maestro mini. At least he's doing covers for it.
Well, he's got to do one shots because he can't do 2 issues in a row.
He's got that Joe Mad syndrome.
I do often wonder whatever happened to Dale Keown, and you've answered my question just now, but the fact that he's doing one shots does not surprise me.
A lot of covers mostly, which is the better paying gig and it's easier work.
And then whatever happened to Pit, I mean, crap. It was a creator-owned title.
Went the way of Shaft, Youngblood, and all those other images.
Shadowhawk. Remember Shadowhawk?
Breaking dudes' backs.
Yep. That was Valentino's.
Yep.
Back when Valentino thought he could actually be just as good as all the other artists that had left at that time.
Valentino brought a level of professionalism to it,
He had to because his art wasn't that good.
And all the boys were busy crashing their Ferraris.
And Valentino, he was the Guardians of the Galaxy artist at that time. Back when they were using Martinez, Yondu, Charlie 27, and Vance Astro.
Yep. And our last book for today is the so in lieu of a traditional free comic book day, we have the free comic book summer, where every week some of the publishers put out some titles. And this week was the hotly anticipated X-Men one by reuniting the House of X team of Jonathan Hickman and Pepe Larraz.
Before we get too deep into that, I want to talk about the cool hero clicks I got for free.
For free comic book day.
Free comic book day.
It's a good thing you
free hero clicks.
You have a co-host who works at a comic book store and can bring you these nice things.
That hooks me up with this free Scarlett Johansson. This is a hero click off of the Black Widow movie that we have still not seen.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. And
a Disney Plus original.
I'm really glad that HeroClix decided to participate in this and give away these. And I actually hope that by giving out these, it's inspiring people out there to pick up the hobby. So HeroClix, yay!
So this one's actually pretty simple. It's basically an Emma Frost doing a tarot reading that it's alluding to what will happen in Ten of Swords.
Not Emma Frost. Saturnine.
Oh.
She just looks a lot like Emma Frost.
Yeah, I was very confused by that.
Yeah, that's the reason why I kind of skimmed over this, because I've never enjoyed Outworld characters. And this is clearly, if you don't know, this is Saturnine, who considers herself pretty much the empress of the multiverse. And she's largely from British Marvel comics. And
explains why I wasn't familiar with her.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. She was in Excalibur, right?
Right. She's in Excalibur.
I remember her.
Yeah. She's got a different version called Saturnine, which is very problematic these days because it's from the Nazi Earth.
Oh.
Yes.
Ruh-roh raggy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's doing a tarot reading that's got some teasers for Ten of Swords, because it's kind of like how what we thought was Powers of X was actually Powers of 10.
Mm-hmm.
What we thought was X of Swords is 10 of Swords.
Because we're scrubs.
So all the X-Men are getting cool swords, and Doom and Gloom is gonna come. There's this one cool page with a Lady Apocalypse looking character I'm curious about.
I didn't get a chance to see it because we ran out of time and I was still reading it.
But the bigger theme, what seems to be kind of the plot impetus of it, is Apocalypse's original 4 horsemen are back.
I saw that.
Yeah, they're back with a vengeance. So
Egyptian themed as hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so the boys are back in town and they're ready to wreak some havoc. But good thing the X-Men got swords this time.
Do you think that the 4 horsemen are established characters like the second wave were?
I don't think so. I think they might be all new, all different guys.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of it. Some really nice full page spreads from Pepe Larraz. I'm excited to see how Ten of Swords turns out. The back half of this one, though, it's there wasn't a lot of fanfare for it before. The X-Men stuff kind of overshadows it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a prelude to a new Marvel story called Dark Ages that we don't have a lot of details about. but it definitely seems to be Iron Man centric, with his armor losing power. And it's by Tom Taylor, who I typically enjoy, and Ivan Coelho, whose work I'm not super familiar with, but looks pretty good here.
Yeah, it does. Newsrama jumped in with an article on this one saying, is Marvel killing off another character for their new thing? And I'm like,
Doubt.
I knew, because Iron Man just got brought back last month. Why in the hell would you spend all these years without Iron Man, bring him back for 3 months, and then kill him off again?
Yeah, especially since they already announced that Christopher Cantwell's doing a new Iron Man book.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, so
in the realm, I'm going to get this one spot and I'll let you go. I know that most people don't think, oh, it's comic books, killing doesn't really matter. I'll tell you what does matter. When they kill off a character, you don't get that character for years. That's the hit you're taking. If your favorite character is Iron Man, Captain America, and they decide to kill him off, you're not going to get him for at least 3 years, possibly as long as 10 years.
And in modern times, it's more like 6 months to a year.
I mean, because we lost Marvel Girl for 10 years. No, 12 years.
Yeah, but that's a rare exception. Like Johnny Storm, he was gone for 9 months, you know?
Yeah, Johnny Storm did take
Peter Parker wasn't even gone a month.
Yeah, it's true, he wasn't. But we lost Wolverine for 5 years,
which is a remarkable amount of restraint on Marvel's part.
Yeah, so that's what I get angry when characters I care about, who I haven't had a lot of experience with, are dying, and it was like, why are you worried about it? It's comic books, they'll be back. And I'm like, yeah, in like 2027. Anyway, go on.
Anyways, so yeah. But I think the bigger thing is I don't think this is going to be an in-continuity story. I think this is Tom Taylor doing a similar thing like he does over at DC with like Injustice or Deceased, which just had its third miniseries start up this week. Not really my thing. I'm not a big zombie guy.
You think it's going to be like 1602 or something like that?
I think so. I was going to compare it to, it was JLA Act of God, a really stupid Elseworld story from the 90s. It's basically like, people with powers suck in this world with no powers. Only the real heroes like Batman are prepared for this world.
I don't really know they're going to do that. I mean, when Marvel makes a storyline that's going to be alternate universe, they're usually pretty clear that it's going to be alternate universe.
Oh, I don't know.
DC is the one that makes you go,
pretty heavy. They were going to whack Iron Man in this, and they ain't doing that in the main universe.
He just looks weak. He's on the ground, but he's still talking. I think that Newsrama just kind of jumped on this because it was a slow news day.
Maybe. I think it being Tom Taylor also makes me be like, I don't know if this is in main continuity.
Yeah, I feel bad that I'm throwing shade at Newsrama because I like them a lot.
They're like one of, I'm not going to say the only good comic news left, but it's slim pickings for good comic news.
It really is. I only go to 2 sites, and that's Newsrama and Bleeding Cool. And recently, Newsrama got bought by Games Radar, so their format is different. And I'm not sure I like different.
Neither of them have a good mobile service. Say that. Terrible. Covered in pop-up ads. With that, before we wrap into our own wrap-up, I want to give a shout-out to my friends Josh and Rebecca's podcast, Murder, She Don't. They took my suggestion to watch Event Horizon on their horror-themed podcast. Essentially, Josh is a big horror fan. His wife, Rebecca, is not, and he shows her movies, and then they talk about them after.
I really enjoy Event Horizon. I've always enjoyed movies that view hell as less of a, bad guys are there, and more of a completely alien landscape.
I'm a huge Event Horizon guy, and I recommend checking out the episode and all the other ones if you really dig it. So, yeah. And Casey, if you want to take us out.
If you like us, subscribe below, hit the indicator. Our new episodes are every Tuesday. Our social media things down below, as you can see, over with Patreon, Instagram. We're on Facebook, got our own presence there. And I got my own thing going on with comic book facts down there below. And check us back next week and we'll be here.